Mike and Sven, I think I'll pass the ball on to you.
All right, thank you. Let me just share my screen quickly. Okay, hopefully you can see that. So we wanted to give you a product update overview, keep that fairly brief, and then go into some question and answer time. I know there's a lot of questions about where we're headed and what we're thinking, so we want to provide a lot of time for you there. So my name is Mike Revort. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Gitpod. I'm in Denver, Colorado, in the United States. I joined the company in the middle of the summer, and I'll let Sven introduce himself.
All right. Yeah. Hey, everybody. I'm mostly here to answer questions later on. I leave Mike doing the talk. I'm a co-founder and currently technical fellow at Gitpod, so I've built some of the changes we released today.
Great, thanks, Sven. So the first thing I'd like to just zero in on is our North Star, and it's our vision for cloud development environments, and it's what anchors our strategy and what we seek to enable to bring to reality in the future. And I think we're off for a pretty good start, but we've got a really long way to go, and it's going to require a lot of innovation and a lot of focus, a lot of iteration, and a lot of listening and working with our users and our customers. You can find more about that at Gitpod.io CDE. But like, this is what anchors everything that we do in our strategy as we move forward, is trying to make CDEs a reality, not just a reality, but make them available as well to our users and our customers as quickly as we can and as best that we can. And so we've made some announcements today that some we're pretty excited about. The first is the new availability of workspace classes and the introduction of the large workspace class. So workspace classes is a generic concept that allows us the ability to define more than one workspace type, so more than one size. And the first one that we're launching is the large workspace size. And we'll be considering other workspace sizes and resource profiles in the future, so we'd love your feedback on that, both larger and smaller. One of the key changes that we had to make with the workspace classes change was to introduce flexible pricing. And so instead of a fixed monthly pricing, we're introducing flexible pricing based on the utilization of the particular workspace class. And so we're excited about this shift because it really is going to enable us to be able to provide additional resources, much larger resources, and to be able to account for both the cost and the value of those to you in a flexible way. We'll also be able to minimize the upfront cost necessary to use Gitpod, and we are continuing our same free tier allowance for individuals, as well as that can be used as individual credits, could be used with teams. You can see those individual credits that we have before. The third announcement is what we call Gitpod Dedicated, which is our new enterprise cloud offering, which I'll talk more about here. So Gitpod Dedicated, you can think of as Gitpod for your company, managed by Gitpod. Our self-hosted product was Gitpod for your company, managed by you. And we found with our customers that it's a fairly complex system. There's a lot going on with Gitpod. And it was a burden for our customers to manage. And we had a lot of customers start to ask us if we could do that for them. And we found that was an inhibitor to their growth and usage. And for us, what we want to find is that our customers can use Gitpod as quickly as possible and not have to worry about all the burdens of the management of it. And so here's an overview of Gitpod Dedicated. It is an isolated, secure, dedicated instance of Gitpod that is managed by us and always kept up to date. It is available in your AWS account or ours. And if it's ours, we'll put it in a dedicated, isolated sub-account. And since it's in your account, it's available in the region of your choice. So today, Gitpod is available in the US and in the EU. We hope to expand that, like Gitpod.io in the future. but this really gives you control around where you want to run Gitpod, both for data locality reasons as well as optimizing for latency. We are introducing Gitpod dedicated in a single region, but we'll be expanding that in the future to support multi-region deployments. AWS is where we're launching Gitpod dedicated first. It's where the majority of our customers work. We'll be considering expanding that to other public clouds as well. Since it can run in your account, it means that it can also run on your private network to give you accessibility to all the resources that you require. So your source control system, any internal services, databases, registries, and those things. And then we'll also in the future be providing the ability to specify even larger or maybe more custom workspace sizes, as well as be able to provide features to more aggressively cache and improve the optimization for your Gitpod installation based on how your team works. With that, when we get to our beta period, we'll be providing OpenID Connect SSO support. The biggest change here is that Gitpod dedicated replaces our self-hosted product. And one of the big factors for that for us was that it was very difficult to support Gitpod and the level and the quality of service that we wanted to provide across all the different variations of Kubernetes and cloud infrastructure. So from EKS to GKE to AKS to customers running it on Metal, we found that it was very hard for us to manage all those variants, and that we know that to realize the vision that we have for cloud developer environments, we really need to be able to control the stack top to bottom, to be able to innovate, to be able to dramatically improve workspace startup times, for example, and performance, and a lot of the features that we have planned for the future. And so here's a high-level overview of what the architecture looks like. It is bound inside of a dedicated AWS sub-account. We will not require any direct network connectivity to the cell, which makes it much more plausible for you to put it on your private network for customers. We will keep it up to date and continuously deployed. And so you don't have to worry about that. You just have to worry about Gitpod. We will be extracting some telemetry and usage data to help us to be able to understand how it's being used and adopted and drive the product forward. But with Gitpod dedicated, then you'll be able to connect that to your internal network, and you'll have control over the ingress and egress of traffic that comes into and out of it. We are today in a period of limited availability. We're working with a handful of design customers that are starting to use Gitpod dedicated, and then into the beginning of next year, the plan is to broaden that availability. And so we are collecting interest. If you look at the blog post, there's a form to fill out to get on the list there, and we're working and lining up customers as fast as we can, as we are learning how to satisfy their needs and make them successful. So we're really excited about what this can provide to customers. We've been pleasantly surprised as well in terms of our current customers and their desire to move to Gitpod dedicated, even from some of their self-hosted installations. So I'll stop there and now open it up for a question and answer session.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, there are a couple of questions I think we should address in sync. It's easier than typing all that. Also, there might be more questions around this. Maybe yeah?
Go ahead, Sven. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Pauline. So one of the questions is, let me check. What was it? Yeah, maybe you want to answer that first one, Mike. It is about the dedicated. It runs in the AWS account of a user. What is the kind of access that we would have to that? What's the plan? How do we deploy that? Is that going to be a zero-touch deployment mechanism, or who has credentials to that cluster?
Yeah, so So right now we need access to your AWS control plane. So if you give us an account to provision in, we need an IAM account, and we'll provide what that IAM account needs access to. We are pushing deployments through ECR container registry, and we are orchestrating deployments through a collection of AWS Lambdas that we'll deploy. And so we don't need direct network access or system level access, but we do need access to be able to create Lambdas, create the EKS clusters, manage network, but we'll be working in proxy through Lambda invocations.
All right. And so there will also be variants, of course, like some customers will demand very, very restrictive access. But if there are relaxed requirements, it's of course easier for our operators to help out and mitigate incidents if there are any. So there will be variants in that. Talking about variants, the other question was, why do we not phase out the self-hosted slowly and just do all the things at the same time, more or less, and see how it's going? So the main reason we are making this decision is that we have been too thin on too many things with the self-hosted product. The complexity we got with that is that we don't know where you would run Gitpod. And so there are different Kubernetes version in different versions and also distributions. Then you have different container runtimes and all that. So we had to pick the least common denominator for all that, which basically didn't allow us to do any kind of interesting new development using latest tech and so on, which is really needed in order to build a great and fast experience for the CDEs. And so with this step there, where we only focus on Gitpod Cloud, being it in your cloud or in our cloud, Gitpod.io and Gitpod Dedicated, we can really focus on, we know exactly what stack we are running on. And so we don't need to support all the different variants, test for that, and so on. This is just this was slowing us down for the last 2 years, big time. And the issue we had always was we wanted to get this, Gitpod into the hands of companies who are not able to use Gitpod.io, who are not able to use any cloud services. And so far, we thought, okay, self-hosted is a thing because everyone was asking it. Yeah, we don't, we need to run it ourselves. And yeah, but with this kind of dedicated approach, we have, best of both worlds. We have the control. We can build for, we really know what kind of the system runs on and so on. But it's still secure and air-gapped for those very controlled environments. And so if we were continuing self-hosted now, supporting self-hosted installations, we would still have the contract that we need to support all these platforms, right? And we cannot hold that anymore because we just need to focus. And the reason also we are releasing everything as AGPL now is that, we know there are some who have highly invested into the self-hosted. They have a running self-hosted and so on. And so with making everything AGPL allows everyone to use it without having a license with us and just continue using it what works. And then eventually, if you no longer want to use it, you can use it until the end of time, but you could also use Gitpod Dedicated once it's available. And so that's kind of the idea here. And that also means that our scope and kind of product scope, what we want to do and so on in the main repo is, of course, very focused now. And so we are happy to, keep working in the open. Everything will be open source. But when it comes to contributions, we need to focus on, the scope that we have. And so having everything HTTPL allows to fork the repository and alter it there and to make it kind of work in other scenarios. But we, unfortunately, really kind of need to make this decision in order to actually build what we wanted to build, like a really great CDE experience. So long rant, but I think this is important, and it wasn't easy for us, this decision, of course. And we are actually relatively happy with that, but we are, of course, know that some might not be happy, and so we are very sorry for that.
Yeah, just to reiterate how difficult a decision this was for us. Ultimately, we want to be able to provide Gitpod to as many people in as many ways as possible, if we could. But we found it very difficult to support all the different variations of the ways that you could run Gitpod on many different, using Kubernetes as a generic deployment platform. To support all the different the varieties of Kubernetes and Kubernetes managed services, and as well as we move forward with this new enterprise cloud offering, we selected AWS because that's where the majority of our customers are. We currently host Gitpod.io in GCP, so we're very familiar with GCP. That's where historically most of the skills of the majority of the team are and have a love for GCP. And so, but we're following our customers. And in the future, will we support other public clouds? If all goes well, likely. But we're trying to follow where most of our customers are and try to meet their needs where they are. And so, if we're going to run inside of customers' cloud accounts, and if they're in AWS, that's where we'll be. We know that limits us, but we think it's it's like the broadest single cloud provider that we can choose that makes the most sense for us.
Yeah, so then there's another question which is important to answer in a very clear way. So the question is, what will happen to existing self-hosted installs, community and commercial were installed? There's a feedback somewhere. So what happens to existing self-hosted installs moving into 2023? So there is a release out end of November, the end of November release of self-hosted, and you can keep using it for any how long you wish. There will not be any updates coming from us on that. So that's a thing.
Yeah, and so that'll be the last. November will be the last feature specific release. We do have contractual obligations with customers that are running self-hosted, and to help maintain and support that through those terms and through the periods of time that we could get them onto Gitpod dedicated, if that's an option for them. We'll be doing security and maintenance releases as needed, but that'll be the last feature release in November. So you can continue to run it as is. It's not going to self-destruct or anything. And there will be, if there are like security issues, maintenance we need to provide, you'll see those incremental updates through that channel as well. But that'll be the last major release.
Okay, were there questions we missed?
There was a question about will we be open sourcing our AWS deployment scripts? We're definitely considering it. I think that we have this value of we want to develop in the open. We've gotten so much from open source ourselves, and as a company, it's been a big part of the company's identities, the founders' identities. And as long as it's not something that's like needs to be private for security reasons or competitive advantage, we'll consider open sourcing those in the future. We're not developing them in the open yet, but it's important to us to remain as transparent as we can moving forward.
There's another question about OpenID Connect on dedicated. Single sign-on. We are going to work on this for not only for dedicated but also for cloud. So we are going to allow you to hook up with your single sign-on provider and create accounts and control them in both installations. Another question, maybe Mike, you wanna take it? How will you address sovereignty issues? Compliances are not bad customer complaints, but mandatory regulations.
Yeah, so we're definitely sensitive to those. We are working with customers to understand the industry that they're in, how they're regulated based on those industries or based on their location. As you know, it's very complicated and multifaceted. And so we know that AWS, even in the region of your choice, will not satisfy everyone's needs. There are other customers, for example, in the US, there are customers that want to be able to run in GovCloud, for example, on AWS, or want to have sovereignty issues with AWS specifically. And we're working through those to help to understand them and to understand how we would meet them. And if not on AWS, then on what other platform? But we're having to make some decisions in the near term to choose the collection of requirements that we can satisfy and satisfy really well, that meet the majority of our customers' needs. And so we'll always be listening and trying to just understand how we could meet all of our customer needs. Like, our goal would be that we could satisfy everybody's needs, but we have to be realistic around how we prioritize that and how we sequence that.
Another question is, who's responsible for monitoring and supporting, operating, who gets alerts, metrics, and so on?
And so Gitpod dedicated will be a managed service. So we will deploy to it. We will keep it up to date. We will have telemetry and monitoring data coming out of the instance to understand how that's what's happening inside of it and alerting outside of it. And so it'll be fully managed by the team at Gitpod.
Okay. I think there are no more questions, but they're coming in. Okay. It's about the pricing. Okay, there is some calculation. This seems like quite a dramatic increase. It is okay. So the new pricing is usage-based pricing, which means you purchase credits and they translate into workspace hours, which is the enabler for workspace classes. Actually, we are releasing this together because before that we had seat-based pricing with unlimited plans, which it doesn't make sense if you want to provide different qualities of the same service, like classes or also unlimited workspace hours and so on, because then there's no incentive in kind of being resource efficient or So the pricing is more or less the same for the personal account as before. So when you subscribe for $10, you get the same amount of workspace hours for the standard plan as before. But the difference is now that you can also you transit and pay as you go afterwards. And so in that mode, the credits are more expansive than the 1,000 credits you get for the 10 or for the $9. Yes. So the kind of the first 1,000 are subsidized by for individuals. Yeah, it's kind of market price. So we don't think Gitpod needs to be especially cheap. We think it's just kind of there are some other competitors around that have kind of the same pricing. We just use that more or less. But it's important. There's still the free plan, it is the same amount of hours that before. The personal plan is the same amount of hours as before, kind of in the standard plan. And yeah, so it's only more or less getting more expensive when you professionally use Gitpod in Teams, because we no longer have the unlimited plans. How long before the enterprise license requirements is removed from the product for those still using self-hosted? I don't know what the concrete plans there are, actually. I also don't think Mike knows, because we haven't really, I think it's kind of an overlook in the amount of things we are announcing. We will discuss that and announce something. Maybe we do a new open source build or something like that. I don't know now.
Yeah, there's some questions about costs, and we want to be competitive. We also want to provide the best experience, and we have with the free tier today, and we have there are competitors that are offering free tiers as well, and we'd love to see that. We'd love to see the availability of services, and we think that offering the same level of free, or even in some cases more, that's great. I think that's great for the public, great for the community. We want to be competitive. We want people to choose Gitpod not because it's free, but because it's better in the long run, and we want to make it better. And we want to be competitive, and we also know that we need to sustain the company to be able to do that. So we have, and we will continue to subsidize the free tier, especially for individuals, because we think it's a great way for people to get started and to do some work without having to worry about it with no commitment, and to realize some of the values of cloud developer environments. But also, we know that we have to sustain ourselves as a business, and we want to be competitive, and we want to be better.
Okay. Yeah. So one question is already answered. Do you expect the quality and quantity of the Gitpod docs and public information to go up or down with this announcement? In general, having less on our plate allows us to provide better quality in all aspects, because we don't need to, jump on too many kind of in too many places. So yes, we are going to increase the quality because we have less surface to manage.
Yeah, hopefully the docs just continue to get better. Hopefully we can provide a lot more samples. We have a lot planned into the next year around expanding the abilities to be able to extend Gitpod and customize. And I think that we'll definitely seek to make a lot of investments in terms of our documentation. I think we look at that documentation as an extension of the product itself, as we enable developers to use the product. So we'll definitely be continuing to invest more in documentation.
I'm not sure if we have more questions. Sloan is typing. Yeah, so sad. Yeah, it is sad for self-hosted, but it's good for Gitpod IO, Gitpod dedicated users, because they will see more features, more improvements much faster. So we are going to be back to shipping value and things, improving the product, which is really so important. And yeah, it's sorry for those who are not in this focus. Absolutely. And the other question is if it's possible to split to a fully open source project. It is a GPL license, so you can fork the project, you can gather a community around that, and the only thing here is you need to keep it a GPL. Everything you do or all modifications need to be released, basically.
Yeah, so it's within the bounds of the AGPL license, and part of it is sad. I mean, it's sad for self-hosted. We're sorry. We're sorry for the inconvenience. We're sorry if you felt misled. We know that for us to be successful and to be able to innovate on the product faster, that we need to be able to innovate on the stack top to bottom. There's some really interesting prototypes that we've done internally that require things like kernel level extensions that require us to have a higher degree of certainty around the stack, and including whether or not we move beyond Kubernetes in the future, or whether we move to away from containers. I think that there's a lot that we're considering around how we evolve the product. It's less about the technology and it's more about realizing that vision for cloud development environments. Yeah, and so there's some further questions around any solution to replace COTS and what can happen in the community. We're moving to the AGPL license to make that really clear. And so if you work within the bounds of that, I think from a community perspective, you're welcome to do that. In terms of the core project, we'll be optimizing Gitpod to run on the managed service on the technology stack that we manage. And so we won't be investing in and continuing to provide all those ways to be able to build, package, and deploy self-hosted on a variety of cloud platforms. But for the ones that we do support, we'll at least consider open sourcing as much as we can around how we do that. So. Any other questions? Anything we missed?